The management portal is a convenient and easy way to configure and work with Azure services. However, it's not the only way. Azure actually has a full set of public web services which you can program against. You can get the link in your Start Here that comes with the materials. You can also install a command line interface which provides a CLI front end to those web services, and you can perform most administrative tasks right from the command line. It supports Linux, Mac OS, and Windows, or you can install it in Docker if you prefer. The install link is in the Start Here page as well. Finally, another exploration technique you can use with Azure is to use one of the Quickstarts. The marketplace includes a mobile app Quickstart, which creates an example to-do mobile application backend, along with a SQLite database and a client front end built using iOS, Android, or Xamarin, or Windows. And you can download those clients to interact with your backend to be able to just explore how the service works. This is a pretty cool way to just learn how to program against the backend. So let's take a look at that really quickly before we end. Now, as a last step, we want to go ahead and create a new mobile app using the Quickstart. I'm going to go back to the marketplace, see all, and here in my filter, I'm just going to type Quickstart. And notice that I have two Quickstarts available to me. One of them is Mobile Apps Quickstart. I'm going to choose this one, and then click the Mobile App Quickstart when it comes up. That'll open up a new blade here, which just tells me about what we're going to create. I'm going to click the Create button, where it'll again open up some property blades. So the first property blade is to actually define the name of the app. The name of the app has to be globally unique because it's going to define the DNS address that will actually represent this application on the internet. And so we'll call it My Task List. And it'll be My Task List Azure Websites.net, except that is taken, so we'll do My Task List 1. That is also taken. Let's try 20. Ha, that one works. So mytasklist20.azurewebsites.net will be the name of our site. Again, I'm going to pick my subscription level. So if you've got multiple subscriptions, then they'll show up here. I'm going to pick my Visual Studio Enterprise subscription, and I'm going to create a new resource group. So we'll call it Tasky, and I'm going to define where I want this to be. So notice that I already have an app service plan location that's in South Central US. But if I didn't, I could create a new one. I give it a name. I select the place where I want it to be, and I select my pricing tier. So the location and the pricing tier are sort of bundled together as part of this to decide exactly how much this is going to cost, because remember, that's relevant to the region itself. And so we'll go ahead and use the existing app service plan that's there, and I can check this box to say pin this new created resource to the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and click Create. That'll submit the deployment again, just like it did for the VM, and it will begin deploying that mobile app. At some point, that deployment will finish, and we'll end up on the dashboard here. Now, notice the dashboard for the Quickstart looks a little bit different. It's simplified specifically because they assume this is a starting point for people who are unfamiliar with mobile apps and with Azure in general. And so I've got a couple of things I can do here. I can see my app that's running, and again, we can dock all this to the dashboard if we want. So if I pin this to the dashboard, it would stick it on my main dashboard. I can go read the documentation, and then I can set up some features. So there's 3 features that are available here. Easy Tables is a quick and easy database. Authentication allows me to then authenticate a user based upon some third-party OAuth representation. So against, say, for instance, Google or a Microsoft set of credentials or something like that. We can also do Easy APIs, which is an easy way to set up basic web services to your service so that your mobile app has some custom logic that can be executed in the cloud. And then we've got some tools down here to be able to edit the site code, to be able to look at our diagnostic logs, and to be able to see the runtime IIS logs. All this is hosted in IIS, as you'll see when you take the next course. But what we're going to do is click the Client Apps box. That will open up the Quickstart for the client apps. And what this is going to do, and so notice that I just got my delete resource group notification here. So that finally finished, is I can then download a specific app here that's tied to this backend service. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Xamarin.Forms app. And then notice it says I have a data connection. However, it's based on SQLite, and it's not recommended for production use. And so this is strictly a test sample application. It's not intended for you to use this in production. The model that it's created doesn't really use any particular resources in the cloud beyond the service itself. The SQLite is just a light database, and so they don't really want you to use this for production purposes. We have a table. I can then create a new app, or I can connect an existing app, and it will tell me the basic steps, 3 little bits of code that we'd have to add into an existing app. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a new app and say download. I'm going to save it. I'm going to open it. And so notice here's my application itself. I want to make sure to extract this. And then we can open this in Visual Studio. Now, because the portal created the app for me, it's already going to be configured to talk to this backend service that it generated. And so I'm going to have this app, and it's just going to be a standard Xamarin.Forms application that has our PCL library with all of our core logic. So this is where our screens are defined. And then, of course, platform projects for Android, iOS, Windows 8.1, and Windows Phone 8.1. Now, what's missing here is UWP, so that's not in this list here, interestingly enough. But you could add a UWP app as well. And, of course, you could do File New Xamarin.Forms app and then just add the logic from the portal that was displayed there. So let's go ahead and rebuild this. Let's restore our NuGet packages first, just to make sure everything's all set up. And then let's go ahead and rebuild this. I don't have my Mac host available, so I'm just going to cancel that. And then let's go ahead and run the Windows version. So I'm going to make this my startup, put it on my local machine, and click Run. It'll launch, and it'll talk to my Azure app. So I'm going to say, this is a task list, get the milk. Say add, and then notice I have a get the milk item here. And I can mark that as completed. I can also come in here and say, maybe I need to clean the garage. Add, and now I have a clean the garage. Now the interesting thing is this is interacting with a server-side database, and so as I add these tasks, it's going into a server-side database, which means that it's persistent. So if I close the app, and then I relaunch it, we should see our data still here. And here's our clean the garage. So it's not being stored here in my local list. It's actually being stored up in the cloud and all being managed by that backend app that we created with Azure. And you can walk through all this code and figure out and look and see exactly what all the API pieces are. But instead, I'm going to recommend that you take the next 2 classes in this course, which are Azure 110, that covers the server-side component for both Node.js and ASP.NET, and Azure 115, which is the client side that we're looking at here, that covers how to actually interact and control all these different services, including adding and updating and deleting items from the cloud. And so that's the basics of the application that's been created here.